Would you say that being a landlord is a relatively easy way to make money?
No, I wouldn't.
I wonder what he would say on TikTok, though. You know what I mean? What would he say on TikTok? Passive income is the easiest way to make money. They always say that shit, but when faced with it, they're like, oh, well, we're doing a real tough job. Bitch, that's not how you were promoting it on TikTok. That's evil, baby. Bragging about evicting a single mom. Evil.
That's called capitalism. That's called competition. That works.
The left likes to talk a lot about landlords, but how often do we talk to them? We're here at the National Landlord Investment Show in central London to talk to a very misunderstood group of well-meaning asset owners about how they feel for a change.
Oh, God.
The market has been skewed away from landlords, and it's very tricky for landlords now to provide a proper service without many of them losing money on the...
Where's the guy? Did we already ban the guy? Shit. Someone in the chat was saying, it's not evil, it's called pay your bills. Brother, one day, either you, a loved one, whether it be your child, if you ever actually fucking have one, or were fortunate enough to have one, okay, is going to go through a similar structure, a similar circumstance, okay? That's not evil. That's called pay your fucking bills. For one reason or another, whether it's a medical emergency, whether you were fired for some reason, maybe you were sexually assaulted at your place of work and you brought it up to HR, so they quickly fired you. You know, there is no real protection if you're a laborer, if you're a working class individual and a renter at the same time. One day that will happen to you. It will. It will happen to you. That's all I'm going to say. You don't know the life I've lived. I stand by my statement and opinion. Yeah. Okay. Keep licking that boot. One day maybe you'll become a landlord who's also a piece of shit. You know what I mean? No, you don't understand, Hasan. I am Hasan. I'm not a renter. I'm a temporarily embarrassed landlord. You don't get it. Passive income, baby. I watched all the TikToks. If there was any kind of justice, your assets, if you are a landlord, would not fucking be as protected. You've been to the Land Chads Reddit? No, I have not. And I will not.
deals at the moment because of interest rate rises.
Definitely in the last 3-4 years, you've seen your profit margins slash to the point where it's not a short-term gain, 100% not. You know, you're in it for the long run, and I think with all these landlords getting out of it, there's just not enough in it for us to do it.
And are you making a good return at the moment?
Not at the moment, no. I have been, but until the recent mortgage rate rises, it was good. I'd describe it as okay, but not good anymore.
How are things in the market for you at the moment?
Very good. Yeah, the rentals are fantastic.
Yeah, because rents are going up and up,
yeah,
I've heard.
Exactly, yeah.
How have your tenants reacted to the increase in the rent?
Not too good. Not too good. No.
What was their reaction?
Well, they might not be able to afford the rent. So,
if it does push comes to shove, would you be willing to wave goodbye?
I think so. Yes. I mean, they can be replaced very easily because there just aren't enough properties to go around at the moment. So people are sort of, they're totally going crazy. Oh, I've got to get a property to live in. So.
Do you think they might be going crazy because the cost of living is spiralling?
Yeah, exactly. So it's very, very high. But it's the agent that puts the rent up, not myself. So I think it's done automatically after a year.
Have you had to increase your rents at the moment? I know rates are going up, etc.
I've not had to, but the management agent I use are basically coming to me and saying, we can get X amount more this year.
You didn't personally feel like you needed to, but...
That's it, baby. That's it. They don't even have to do the personal villain shit. It's just capital. You know what I mean? You just delegate that off to someone else who takes a little bit off the top. You delegate the responsibility to that person too. You just don't feel as bad about it. Obviously, you still have final decision-making power, but it's just business. It's not personal.
There was an opportunity to, so you sort of took it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm quite fortunate. I sold my business 6 years ago, so I've got very little in the way of finance, loan. It's all personal money, so I'm quite fortunate in that I haven't got mortgages on the property, so didn't have to increase the rent, but just following the market trends, really.
I mean, you know, it's a cost of living crisis at the moment. Rates are spiralling. Do you think that renters or landlords have a tougher time of it at the moment?
I think renters, certainly, yeah.
Have you ever considered giving your renters a reduction because of the kind of cost of living crisis?
I should say yes. No. Now I've stopped work and I've effectively semi-retired from my main job, so I do need that income. So short answer is no.
Would you say that being a landlord is a relatively easy way to make money?
No, I wouldn't.
I wonder what he would say on TikTok, though. You know what I mean? What would he say on TikTok? Passive income is the easiest way to make money. They always say that shit, but when faced with it, they're like, oh, well, we're doing a real tough job. Bitch, that's not how you were promoting it on TikTok. Get a job.
I think that the more skilled you are, the easier it becomes. But there are obviously challenges that come with anything in business. But I think there's a lot of provisions you can put in place to be able to better your chances of success. Certainly being an ethical landlord with a tenant mentality always helps.
What does it mean to be an ethical landlord?
Everything. That's what Rockstar Property is about. It's becoming that landlord that I wish I always had.
Have your rents increased? I presume your rents have increased in the past few months, years, due to rising rates?
No. So everything that Rockstar does is on the long term. The fixed rates that we have in place are 5 years minimum. The tenancy contracts are 3 years. We rent to companies usually. So we're not on a daily basis increasing rent, but we just have a good contract in place with every tenant that we have that increases the rent by about 5% per year.
I suppose the situation we have now is that, as you know, wages are being held flat by bosses who...
Wait, what? Wait, no shot. Did he just say... It's ethical because he raises... I guess it's commercial, so it's different. It's kind of wild. Wait. Okay. On the one hand, he's talking about, I think he's talking about commercial real estate, which is like companies. So, you know, it's, in my opinion at least, like automatically a little bit more ethical than regular real estate that people have to live. Like you need a residence to survive. You need shelter. But even then, it's like he still is like, oh yeah, don't worry, we're not raising the rent. We have a contract. We have a contract for 3 years. Well, okay, but he's still raising it. He's still raising it by 5% in the contract. But what's wild to me about this entire situation is that you're saying it's fucking 5% is insane. Dude, depending on what market you're talking about, 5% increase stable over like a 3-year period is quite literally better than, he said 5% every year. Okay, that's 15% at the end of 3 years, right? There are people in here, I'm willing to bet, that have had to increase their what is happening? Oh, it's compounding. Sorry, you're right. What's going on in the chat right now? A lot of weirdos in here. Something else happened? Did something go viral, like a Twitter thread or something, being like, Hasan sucks? We don't know where they're coming from. Usually we can figure it out. Anyway. Even if he had, it compounds, bro. Poli-sci major. Okay, shut the fuck up. Even when it compounds, it ultimately means that his deal that he's offering to commercial real estate, if he's doing commercial real estate, is better than, is literally fucking better than what your landlords do usually.
Worried about a wage price spiral, as it were, but food bills are going up, energy bills are skyrocketing, and rents are going up. So, what do we do about that? Landlords are increasing their rents, even despite the fact that their renters' incomes are not increasing.
I think it's a fair point to make, but I would equally say on the flip side that not all landlords are doing the same. I can only speak for myself. We are not exponentially increasing rent to counterbalance increase of interest rates, for example, because we've got a number of refinances coming up next year, but we don't really have any this year because we've just locked in. We've got over 60 of these HMOs now. But I think that, again, the smaller time landlords would probably have to penny pinch on every sort of angle they can, whereas with myself, it's more of what is the right thing for the tenant, because the portfolio can afford to reduce a rent by 5%, for example. And I'm personally all about tenant welfare, and I favour the tenant despite being a long-time landlord. So it is very important for me to make sure that the tenant is in the best position, because I feel like increasing rent and putting the tenant in a bad position is only going to get you just not far down the line. Like I said at the beginning, everything we have done is on the long term, and if there's no longevity in having a tenant that cannot afford to pay their rent.
You're a property investor. Tell me a bit about that.
We are working closely with landlords to help them get better return of investment for their properties.
How much might you be able to increase a landlord's rent, for example? What kinds of rent increases are you able to gain through sourcing higher value tenants?
From experience, possibly between 10 and 20% higher than what they get now.
Wow. Okay. And so does that ever involve needing to ask tenants to leave who can't pay the kinds of rents that you're that you're asking?
That's another beautiful thing, actually. That we present to landlords, because they deal directly with us. They don't need to deal with any tenants whatsoever, and this is a big thing for tenants.
So you do the dirty work?
That's correct. We deal with tenants, we deal with cleaning, with small maintenance. Basically, they just sit down, relax.
That's capitalism, baby. You said rent seeking on top of rent seeking on top of rent seeking. Unlimited growth is awesome. That's what capitalism is the most innovative at. Creating new middlemen. Yeah. Okay, chat, we know where the fucking dumbass haters are coming from. You don't have to publish it in the chat, okay? Figured it out. Please.
Have their holidays and whatever time with families, do whatever they want, and we pay guaranteed rent at a certain time.
So you ensure that really being a landlord isn't a job, doesn't need to be work, it can just be a holiday.
Are there any scenarios where you support evictions? Just wondering. Yeah, there are. If the person is if you're living in your own house or something and you're renting out another room and that person is doing something illegal, you know what I mean? Obviously, there will be situations, okay? But ultimately, my perspective on the matter across the board still relies on or still revolves around the entire concept in and of itself being born out of gatekeeping or paywalling, if you want to understand it with gaming terms, paywalling shelter, which is a necessity for survival. Maybe in a fucking universe, I do think that there will never be an end to exploitation without full-blown expropriation, having private assets of this sort, having capital of this sort is, in my opinion, still unethical. There could be additional, in the interim period, there could be additional types of units or whatever the fuck you are trying to rent out if you want, on top of like having adequate housing. But we do not live in that kind of structure. Even when you personally think about a place like Vienna, 65% of the housing in Vienna is public housing. It's socialized. But there's still some private housing that's available. In the interim period, moving towards that as an ultimate goal is, it's awesome. I am perfectly on board with that. You get it?
I think a property investor like me is a perfect solution for landlords.
Are you a landlord yourself?
Yes, I am.
How many properties are in your portfolio?
A few of them.
A few of them. And do you consider yourself a successful landlord?
Yes.
Yeah. And do you consider yourself to make a good return at the moment? I know things are hard for landlords.
It's hard for landlords right now.
Have you had to increase your rents recently?
We had to, otherwise no point to have properties.
What percentage did you have to increase your rents?
4-ish, 5.
And how did your tenants react?
They haven't got any choice, unfortunately.
Did they, ask for a rent reduction, or did they, ask you not to do it?
No chance.
No, okay.
Feel for the guy, man.
I'm a bit damp, but I'm here because this building is full of landlords. This is the organised landlord class inside this building, finding out how they can pay less tax, finding out how they can maximise their profit from renters. And I'm here because I'm thinking, well, I'm already paying the majority of my income on rent. I'm waiting to hear from my landlord about a new contract. God knows how much the rent is going to go up by. That might mean I've got to leave the area. That might mean I've got to move out to God knows where. And we're all pissed off. We're not going to have it anymore. The rents are going up and up and up. There's nothing to stop landlords from doing that. So we need action by the government. We need to get protections in to stop rents being put up the way they are now.
Have you yourself been affected by the housing crisis, coinciding with the cost of living crisis?
Yeah, I was evicted last year because the landlord put up the rent by £400.
£400 a month?
£400 a month. And I can't afford that. I don't know anyone who can afford that. And that's horrible. That's just a common story that we're hearing every day.
How much of your income would it have been to pay that £400 a month increase? Would it have been half your income, a ridiculous proportion of your income?
Well, it's already half, so it would have been maybe 60-70% of my income going on my rent, just for my rent, working half my week just to pay my landlords.
I'm a landlord. I do I was here today because we do a Sky TV show called Property Elevator, which is a bit like Dragon's Den. And I'm one of the angels on the show, and people come and pitch to us their property projects for funding. My name is Ranjan Bhattacharya. I've been investing and developing properties for the last 30 years. I specialise in taking defunct commercial buildings and converting them to alternative.
My controversial opinion is that the only type of this isn't even what I believe should happen at the end. What I believe is that housing in its entirety should not be a commodity. I do legitimately believe that. I think that all manner of housing should be personal and not private property. But obviously that is not going to happen anytime soon. Having said that, however, a lot of people are always like, oh, what's the most ethical way to do this? What's the most ethical way to do this? If I had any say in the matter in the interim period, what I would do would obviously move towards decommodifying housing. Okay? Now, do not prepare for an ad, even though there is a middle of the hour ad break, which I'm going to run right now, so suck my dick. No. Decommodifying housing. And if you want to understand what the ethical way to do landlording in a situation like that, one thing I would do in the short term would make it so that it is illegal for you to charge rent that is more than the mortgage itself. As a landlord, it would be illegal for you to charge rent for more than what the mortgage is, and that what you would be doing in that situation is basically having someone else pay for your mortgage, and that is a fair trade for at least putting the upfront capital that is necessary to even purchase a property. Yeah, not just mortgage, though. Mortgage plus interest and taxes and repairs, exactly. With potentially at the end of your mortgage contract, you have the opportunity to buy the property outright by giving your landlord the upfront capital and plus like a fee for the purchase. That way, it's still somewhat of an investment for you, but you have the option to rent to own, because you are quite literally paying the fucking mortgage of the property. At that point, if you still want to, at that point, if you still like are, well, the value of this the value of this property has gone up, you know. But wouldn't that just be volunteering for someone to stay at your house? At that point, genuine question, like most people wouldn't do that though, and then there's no way to sleep. Yeah, that's what it means to decommodify housing. Yeah. Arrest every landlord, unironically imprison all landlords. Your lib is showing. Yeah. That's why I said interim, but you conveniently mistook that as something different. You'd price individuals out and only large companies would take on that burden? Oh no, dude, that's crazy. I mean, I don't think anyone should have that burden. I don't think that burden should exist. I think the government should have that burden. So let me make that very clear for you. I don't think it's a mom and pop landlord situation at all. I think that the government should deal with housing. In every other country where there is a tremendously high percentage of personal home ownership, in America it's like what, 40 to 50%, something like that. When you look at like fucking Lithuania or any other USSR bloc, a former USSR bloc, Eastern European country, you got all the way up to like 80%, 90% home ownership, personal home ownership. You think that happened as an accident? How did that happen? How did that happen? Why is personal home ownership in Romania 96%? The goal should absolutely be to decommodify housing in its entirety. Thank you. Afiyet
uses. There's a lot of misrepresentation of landlords. If I'm taking a building that's derelict, which was formerly a commercial property, and I've converted it for residential use, I'm introducing new housing supply. And I'm building a block of apartments, or converting this building into a block of apartments optimized for what people want when they're renting.
A luxury housing block that you might make, that you might kind of refurbish, let's say, might only be affordable to people on six-figure salaries. You know, the kinds of people that can afford to live in London these days are not ordinary people.
Yes, but we are the private sector. So we choose as a company to specialise in whatever area of the market that we want to focus on. What Britain needs for growth is a flexible labour force, a flexible labour market that can move around where the work is. And without a strong private sector, a private rental sector, you do not have a flexible workforce. Without a flexible workforce, you do not have a strong economy. Without a strong economy, you don't have the tax revenue to feed into society's safety net for people who need a little bit of support.
That's awesome. Yeah. How about you be flexible? You seeming real rigid right now, you know? It's like, yeah, why don't the British working class just move from town to town like a bunch of migrating serfs, moving and permanently renting, of course, with zero stability whatsoever. And that way I can also charge you rent in every other part of the country, because there's no fucking way that you're going to be able to ever rent a home of your own. It's great.
The thing is, there is a charitable element, there's a social element to housing, but that is up to the government to provide, not for private companies. This is a mixed market, and we all have our place in the market. I went over to have a word with those people.
Okay, to be fair, I don't disagree with that. In a robust social democracy, which is what the UK is supposed to be, the government is supposed to be the one providing the alternatives. The government is the one who's supposed to also render housing impossible to maintain as a landlord. You know what I mean? He's not wrong. The government, if working appropriately, would create such wonderful mixed income with majority affordable housing options that, like, this guy would technically be out of a job, or potentially the only thing he could be renting out would be luxury high-rise condominiums for, like, the mega wealthy. That's what a mixed market economy would look like, except the existence of the private sector works completely against the public sector's existing at all. You know?
They shouted me down. They're entrenched in their belief. I deal with thousands of landlords through my training programs, and I know that these people do not represent the truth that is out there.
You think the truth is that renters broadly love their landlords?
Sorry?
Truth is that renters actually do love their landlords?
I don't know whether love is the right word. You know, whether people are happy in their properties, whether people believe they're getting a service, that is a different issue. Love is completely different. You know, it's not Valentine's Day.
When I talk about housing, remind yourself, I'm just like him. That landlord that you were listening to, just on the other side of the ideological spectrum. He says it's a mixed market, but he doesn't actually want any public sector housing to be available. I say it's a mixed market, and I don't want any private housing to be available. So technically, we're both saying the same thing, which is very appealing to a broader majority, but maybe we believe in very different things. Perhaps that's something that you should also consider next time you have a fucking conversation with a normal human being and you immediately start talking about fucking murdering landlords and shit like that. Okay? What is this? My favorite clip of you talking about landlord? All the time. You are making money for someone else, okay, at your place of work. You're making money for your bosses. They give you like a smaller percentage of that back to you, whatever they've decided you are worth, okay? They give that to you so you can make money for your landlord's family. How the fuck does this make sense? Also, you can have a roof over your head so you don't fucking die, and then you can go back to work and make money for someone else, and then they take a small percentage of that and give it back to you. So you can go again and fucking feed your landlord. That shit sucks. Meanwhile, I talk about it all the time. My sister owns a second house for rental, and you're absolutely right that going about it is killing all landlords the right way, but it comes across as crazy to some people. Yeah, no, that's an insane thing to fucking say. It's like saying you want to kill all cops, okay? You're not going to win anyone with that. That is a psychotic fucking take. Sorry. That's an insane thing to say. I know you're probably going through a more edgy, more zesty Zoomer phase. Like, but this is an infinitely more productive way to have that conversation the way that you want to have that conversation. Bro, none of your streams look at the same from the clips ever. That's impressive. Thank you. Obviously, they hate that. So they're like, let's go to Jackson Head. Jackson Hole. Fuck, did I say it again? Did I say it wrong? Well, whatever. Like I said, if you no longer want to see those ads, yeah, there's no ad breaks in Wyoming. All you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free, or get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Where the fuck were we with this? What was I watching? Oh, this.
You've got a job. Your job is.
I gotta go pee. I'll be back.
Madam, with the greatest of respect, I have a job, and my job is being responsible for all my tenants. And when they email me saying the boiler isn't working, or the windows aren't opening, or there's mold, I have to respond straight away, because if I don't, right, they're going to go next door where the landlord will have a property where it will have no mold or a boiler working. That's called capitalism. That's called competition. That works.
So you're getting a bit worked up about what's happening over here. Do you think that they've got the wrong end of the stick?
Like children to parents, they run, mummy, daddy, government, take care of me. Take care of me, government. Government's the answer. Government is not the answer.
But I suppose that they're not just saying that government's the answer. They're saying that the private landlords should themselves have compassion and shouldn't just gouge renters for everything that they're worth in the cost of living crisis.
I would personally argue that vast majority of landlords have great compassion. But
have you increased your rents during the cost of living crisis?
Of course, because we're passing on our costs in turns.
But is that compassionate?
Well, if we don't pass on our rents, if we don't pass on inflation, tax hikes, interest rates hikes, then the property will be repossessed and then no one will have a home. So we have no choice but to pass on some, not all, but some of the costs, right?
Do you mind me asking how many properties are in your portfolio?
This guy's my favorite
in
so
London,
far.
Specifically.
This guy's my favorite so far because he said landlording is a really hard job because if I don't fucking fix the boiler, they'll just... Oh, fuck, that scared me. They'll just move next door, forehead. It's like, yeah, it's that easy, right? It's that fucking easy to just, like, move next door. No, knowing full well that it's not that easy, you fucking rarely ever fix shit. That pretty much is, like, a major issue with landlords in general, is that they don't do anything and then they paint over it, right? Last but not least, he said, oh, if I can't pay my mortgages, then nobody has the house. How about the government take the house? I mean, that's fine, you know? Okay, you couldn't pay your mortgages. Government took it. What, you think they're not going to use it? You think the government's not going to put people in it? There's people that will love to be in that house. I promise you. The idea that, like, no... Look, I'll tell you like this, okay? People always say, like, oh, well... You know, who will run the corporation without CEOs? Like, without the CEO, the corporation can exist. As a matter of fact, it exists every day. Without the workers, on the other hand, there's no value. An additional conversation could be had about the existence of landlords. If tomorrow, by a stroke of magic, no one was allowed to own a home, and that, like, landlords simply, as a job, we woke up one day and we forgot landlords ever existed, okay? Nothing, like, there would be no genuine issue in society that would be caused by that. I'm not saying they're dead, okay, chat? Get your head out of the fucking gutter. You wake up one morning and everybody forgot that landlording was a fucking job, okay? What value would have been lost from society in that situation? Actually, what value would have been lost? If anything, there would be more value Regarding the Vienna housing example, I think you have to be a bit more careful. It says 60% of people live in public housing or subsidized dwellings, which means a big percentage of that might be built with tax money, but landlords are just going to use that to increase their bottom line. Actual public housing, meaning the city acts as a landlord, makes up 25% of all the dwellings, 200K apartments. Yeah, except it says 60% of people live in public housing or subsidized dwellings because the subsidized dwellings are also under rigorous control with how much they can charge, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So the idea that like the idea that this is just people, profiteers, banking on the government to make the housing that they sit on and then they rent out is not the same. You know? If landlords disappeared one day, the profit margins the profit margins of the white pay companies would plummet. That is true. Vienna, by the way, makes a profit with public housing. In 2022, they made 39 million euros profit. The only reason why they need taxpayer money is to build new houses. Anyway. Also, the irony of this guy saying, I'm a landlord. When my tenant calls me, I have to fix the boiler is hilarious. You don't fix the boiler, dog. Or even if you were quite literally fixing the boiler, you would not be operating in a landlord capacity in that situation. You'd be operating in the capacity of a person who is a plumber or whoever the fuck is the person fixing the boiler. If you're fixing someone's toilet, for example, you're a plumber at that situation. Okay, you're doing a job as a plumber. You're a handyman. You're not a landlord. Most of the time, you're actually calling someone to do that. Anyway, that's not a job. That's a form, okay? You can literally automate that if necessary. And some management companies do automate that. So, your job is nothing. Your job is to just have money. That's it. And then you put it into a enclosure. You put it into a resource that is necessary for survival, so that you can rent seek off of people who need that resource to survive, so they can go to work and make more money for you.
All together.
About 25.
And so are you not able to absorb any kind of contraction of your margins during, it's an asset, its value increases and decreases. You might have, no one's made a bad bet, let's say, but you might have misread the forecast or just not predicted that we were going to have a housing crisis or a war in Ukraine, or a cost of living crisis, I should say. But surely landlords with foresight should be able to weather that storm and sort of absorb some of those costs in the knowledge that their asset will increase in value in the future.
With regards to the cost of living, landlords look, they're not stupid. They're not going to evict tenants on a whim. They want...
But like 300,000 tenants have been evicted on the whim of landlords in the cost of living crisis.
Yeah, and why is that? Because government, again, are saying they're going to get rid of Section 21. They're imposing all these extra taxes. I mean, most landlords, let's be frank, pardon my language, most small landlords haven't got a pot to piss in. I mean, this whole charade here is a joke. Because...
So here's what I don't understand. If you want to garner sympathy, like, this is one thing that landlords will say all the time. It's like, dude, we're broke. Okay, get a job then. Fuck you mean you're broke, dog? No, actually, like, get a job. That's what everyone does, okay? Let's say tomorrow I can't fucking be a Twitch streamer, okay? Let's say tomorrow I can't be a Twitch streamer. Okay, what do I do then? Well, I get a job. I get a different job. What the fuck? What do you... It's not a given. I genuinely don't understand it. Sell your house then? Oh yeah, you're talking to him, I think. I was like, no, I live in my house. I don't get it. Isn't it supposed to be a risk? Exactly. That's the funniest part. Business owners constantly talking about like 80% of businesses fail. We're taking risk. We're taking risk. Okay. Well, risk means there needs to be negative consequences to it, right? Like a risk implies that you did something crazy. It's a shot in the dark. You gambled. Okay. Sometimes you fail in that gamble. But landlords are like, no, this is not a gamble. I'm the house. I own the house. I am the house. I'm playing with the house money. It's very strange. Maybe because of like the emotional association that we have with our homes, with housing. Like maybe that's part of the reason why landlords can get away with like making it seem like if you as a landlord can no longer do landlording, it's like we kicked you out of your own house or something. Like I don't fucking get it.
Most landlords, most small landlords are poor, desperately poor.
Don't do it. Don't do landlording. Like this is great. Okay, this is great. What he's saying is awesome. I hear you. I feel you. Do a different job. Like, are you stuck being a landlord? Like, what's going on? Were you born to be a landlord? Is there like a bone in your brain that causes you to only do landlording? You know, learn to code.